being able, and many of us have had so much experience in court until we could be jailhouse lawyers on a court level. But what happens is that we start to know exactly certain things that need to be done. And so a father doesn't feel lost when he goes into the system and they're talking another language, okay, because the legal language is different from what I'm talking from my heart. So when I get there and there's lawyers and there's child support advocates and all these other people, and you're sitting there and you're facing all of this, you sometimes can be very intimidated. And when people are intimidated, a lot of time they start to act irrational. And so therefore their behaviors start to get in front of what they really wanted to accomplish. And then they walk out of court and they've lost everything. So what we try to do is go with fathers to explain to them the system and how it works. And we found that it made a big difference. We've had several fathers that have gotten full custody of their children. Okay, so it's not anymore like it used to be.
Several fathers that perhaps were former addicts.
Yes. We're former everything. You understand? See, we don't care what you were into. That's not a. We moved away from judgments.
Yes.
Okay, I don't care what you used to do, whether your drugs or your lifestyle, whatever you may have been, it doesn't matter. When you come into the community fathers, we meet you where you are. We don't know who you was before because that's not who we look for. And so nobody's going to come here and say, oh, well, what were you about?
We're not reading your packet.
Right, because see, what we're finding is that everybody wants to be accepted from where they are. Right now. Okay, right now I have a desire to do something better with my life. I have a desire to make an impact with my children and my family. So, we take it from there. And sometimes that's all a person needs to be accepted. We're moving into a time in the world where we have to start to become inclusive rather than exclusive. Okay? We're looking at a world that has gone and gotten into such systems of hatred and anger and resentments. All of these things are creating such problems on the planet until we have to start to do something different. So as fathers, what we do is when we're starting to bring love back to our children, okay? And when we do that, all of a sudden we find our children are loving us back. And the power of that is tremendous. And this is why when we see things like that and the miracles, the fathers who were estranged from their families and all of a sudden got back in. And let me just say something, because a lot of people, when they hear fathers group, think somehow that it's a negative to mothers. We don't, we're
it's a mom bashing.
Oh, yeah.
Let's all get together.
Oh, so yes. No, this is not a beer keg party where people start to trash people. It's not about that, okay? What it's about is that we believe that we need to respect the mother of our children, okay? We know we've learned how to handle it appropriately. So therefore, we deal with things on a different level. But we don't believe in mama bashing, okay? Because we feel that that was the person you chose, okay? So maybe we really need to look at how you choose your mates. So I think that would be better for you to learn how to do it and pick a better person to be with you.
Sure.
But a lot of times when we're confused and we don't know who we are, we make bad choices. And so therefore, it's not that we got somebody bad. It was the fact is that we didn't make a good choice for ourselves. And some of us never learned how to make good choices for ourselves. And we never learned how to have relationships. So therefore, a lot of that is involved with it. And those are some of the issues we talk about. But we're not here to say mothers are this or mothers are that, because that's not our function.
Yeah.
Our function is to concentrate on fathers and your relationship with your children. And when you start to work with from that angle, then a lot of the resentments and arguments and things that might have gone down that made it difficult for you to see your children, those things start to ease up, and now you can start to visit them on a regular basis.
Sure.
But it takes time for you to learn how to do this, because sometimes our lives have had so many damages and effects that we just didn't realize that it has caused a wreckage. You know, it's referred to as the wreckage of the past. And sometimes we come back into people's life and they're not quite sure how to handle us. But when you've made your change, then everything changes for you.
Well, I think that's the key. If people continue to see the person you were and not the person you are, the person you want to be, how can you ever get ahead? Because you're living in the present or looking towards the future, and everybody else is treating you as if you were. How about the old Dean? How about the old Walter?
Right.
The old me's dead and gone.
Yes, yes. And you know, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I found something. Because what I realized is that sometimes we change, but sometimes we haven't seen the change in others. Okay? So yes.
Talk about it.
Right. I wanted everybody to realize I'm a changed man.
Yeah.
Don't you know who I am?
Look at me.
Right. But as soon as they started saying something, it was like, oh, here we go. And I would start to flash back into that past behavior, to the way I used to act.
I knew you didn't change. I knew you didn't change.
Okay, here we go. So I was proving the exact opposite. Okay, so what I had to realize is that I had to allow others to have their change also. And they might not have gotten to the point where I did. I was able to come here, get a very good supportive group around me that made a difference in my life. So therefore, I had something to work with, whereas some of the people that I had relationships with did not have that opportunity. So what I had to do is also accept them from where they were and not feed into things that I saw wasn't getting us anywhere.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I have found that having the working with fathers has helped me so much as a father. Okay? So it's not as if I'm going there and I'm playing like, I'm the granddaddy of all of the fatherhood programs. That's not the issue. The issue is that I am learning just as much about fathering, because we not only father our children, but we father each other in our relationships. There was a saying, and I don't know who said it, but the saying was, the boy is father to the man, okay? So I have to also father this boy within myself that might have been hurt, been disappointed, and many of the things that caused me to feel that I needed to go down these side tracks. So now what I'm doing is I'm directing those feelings in another level. And what I'm finding is that everything has changed once I began to make the change. So once I see that, then I know it can happen for anybody, and I know it can happen for fathers.
Yeah, Walter, let me ask you, in the aspect of addiction, in the father that's the addict that has been absent from his child's life, or the child's been removed from his life for maybe months, through whether CPS or without CPS involvement, months, years, perhaps 4, 5, 6 years. And I think sometimes what can prevent the father from being the father that now, clean and sober, that he wants to be, that he knows can be, is that guilt and shame. I wasn't there for years. I missed Christmas. I missed birthdays. I wasn't there. I can't even buy presents, but now I'm sober. Have you had that experience within the fathers?
These are the fathers we want.
Yeah.
Okay. See, we don't really need the fathers that's got the BMWs and the silver spoons, and they can give and play Daddy Warbucks on Christmas, because they
buy up for some time.
Right. See, what we're talking about is everyday fathers, okay, who come from many, many, many levels of life experiences. And in addiction, one of the things is once a person starts to become clean and starts to work on themselves on another level, they become such an asset to their children and to their family that some of them just have no idea. And this is why we work with fathers from those areas, simply because this gives them a purpose. Okay? It's one thing to go and to get clean and sober, but if your family is still a wreck, you have to go back and start to bring this back together, because you were part of the problem in the beginning. And so what you do is you want to go back now and you want to present another model. But you have to be willing to be the model that they need. Okay, and you have to have made a decision that you're not going back to that old lifestyle. Because one of the things that we don't want to continue to do is disappoint our children again.
Coming in and out of a kid's life. Dad's around for a few months, and Dad disappears and is sick again.
Yes, and see, and let me say, because we all know that it's a family disease. So if we can start to heal the father, we heal the children, which heals the family, which heals the community. Okay? So that's the way we do it, one at a time. So therefore, no matter how long you've been gone, that doesn't mean you're out. What you have to do is you have to be willing to step back up and not be afraid. Fear keeps us from having wonderful lives.
I've heard you say, and I'm not sure exactly the wording, but you have the divine.
Yes, yes, that's divine. Your children are yours. Those are yours by divine right. You know, you have had these children. So life sent them to you, or sent them through you.
Everybody's only got one dad.
That's it.
You're always going to be their dad.
So why not give them the best dad they could have? Because it's waiting for them.
Walter, we got a few minutes left. I want you to touch on the topic because we've reached many areas through the show, in the Capital District, on the internet, through YouTube. I'm sure that there's fathers out there that could benefit from Community Fathers, Inc., the father that may or may not have gotten sober yet, the person that's still struggling with those feelings and want to numb that, and have that mind-altering substance for whatever reason, the father that's still out there sick and suffering, what you'd say to him?
I'd say to him, come and get the help that you need. Okay, you don't have to suffer anymore, and you don't have to be alone anymore. And a father who's out there suffering like that, the thought of his children makes his suffering even worse. So we say, and we don't judge who you are and what you've been through. So you don't have to worry about that. Okay? We've been there already. So we already understand where you're coming from. So have no fear. Okay? You know, when that saying that says we're going to love you until you can love yourself, that's what we're here for. So please, I'm speaking to any father out here in the community, in the Capital District. We need to build a father's movement and bring our fathers back into the lives of our children.
Community Fathers meets when and where?
It meets every Thursday night at Steinmetz Family Investment Center, which is at 120 Emmons Street. That's Emmons, E-M-M-O-N-S, right off Albany Street, Albany and Henry Street. And we meet in the community room there. And we meet every Thursday at 6:30. All are welcome.
Walter, thank you. Keep up the great work.
Been my pleasure, Dean. Thank you.